Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I thought I'd do a distant view of the sea. That's always a nice thing to look at, isn't it? And this one is of a road that goes from the foreground into the far distant, cliff tops. I did my drawing on tracing paper and then transferred it to a 9 by 12 canvas panel, which I had previously used and covered with gesso to obliterate the previous picture painting, and transferred my drawing. I'm using my usual palette. I couldn't find my palette paper, so I used tracing paper and actually worked quite well. And I have titanium white, primary yellow, raw sienna, raw umber, French ultramarine blue, sap green, and alizarin crimson. And I'm starting off with my sky. I usually start when I'm doing a landscape or a seascape at the top of the painting. I do the sky and work my way down to the foreground. That's just the way I do it. Other artists may do it differently, but that's the way I like to do things. There's quite a lot of detail in this painting. I have birds, I have a tiny lighthouse, a sailing boat, a house on the cliff top, some poplar trees, and a close tree of, I don't know what kind of tree that one is, but it's my usual tree that I do when I want to frame a picture. And I wanted to frame the view, so the branches of the tree overhang my distant view. For the sky, I'm using French ultramarine blue mixed with titanium white and into a sort of pale sky blue. And I'm putting titanium white straight from the tube over that blue for clouds. And I'm bringing it down close to the horizon line, which I must tell you has to be straight. You cannot have any hills in your horizon line. And it will make your sea look strange if you do. So that's one thing that you have to make sure is straight. I just eyeballed it today, but quite often when I'm doing a horizon line, I will put masking tape across my canvas to make sure I get a straight line. This is a quick sketch because that's how I like to paint. I don't like things that drag on too long. I couldn't possibly spend a day on a painting or more. I know some people spend hours and hours painting, but I like to do everything within half an hour, and what's not done gets left. So when I put my tree foliage in, I put a mid-tone and then I add shadow to it and highlight. And that's the way I paint everything, a mid-tone, shadow, and then highlight. And that gives me good form in my paintings. Everything's got a roundness to it. When I'm painting a tree, I don't paint every single leaf. I put on a mid-tone and then add my highlight and shadow to that. But my best secret, and I didn't do this today, but is that I use a bristle brush, a round bristle brush, very old one mine, and I stipple the paint onto the tree, and that gives the impression of foliage. That's what I like to believe. Today I didn't. I just dabbed the paint on. It was a very quick sketch, as I say, so that's probably what the difference is. I didn't put a huge amount of effort into this painting, I've got to say. I just felt like coming up with a nice scene and enjoying myself painting. I'm a bit lazy lately, and it worked for me anyway. I quite like how this painting turned out. I felt I could step over the frame into the painting and explore, and that's what I like in my landscapes and seascapes. I like to feel there's space involved that you could wander around and explore as a tourist. I'm pretending that the cliffs and meadows are very green and grassy, and I feel I'm a little bit disappointed in the poplar trees that I had on the edge of the road. I feel they could have been a little bit taller, um, but I'm thinking that it just indicates the distance of how far the road goes into the distance. And I'm going to console myself with that idea. I couldn't make up my mind about the road. I wanted it to be a sandy road, but then I thought I had too many yellows in the painting anyway. And I didn't want it to be a paved road, but then it ended up being that paved sort of bluish grey colour. And I tried not to make too much of a fuss about it. And I left it without doing very much to it at all. And I think it works. I'm not sure. I also had a little trouble with the cliffs, getting the colour right. I didn't want them to be white chalk cliffs, and I didn't want them to be very dark in colour either. And I was having a hard time coming up with a sort of palish tone that would work with all the green I had. I have a lot of green in this painting, and I think it threw me off. I eventually came up with a sort of greyish colour, which I think works. I'm using acrylic paint, and that may have something to do with the fact that I'm doing very quick sketches. I used to paint with water mixable oils, and I know it used to take me longer to do a painting, and that was because oils need a little bit more setting up time before you can put on different layers. And that forced me to take my time doing a painting. I love the acrylics because they dry in no time at all. And you can very quickly finish a painting. And but it does put me in that sketch mode. And I'm not sure that does me any favors. So I think I might get my oils out at some time and show you how I paint with those. I have to find them first. They're tucked away in a box somewhere. But when I do, I will do an oil painting. Water mixable oils, not regular oils. I'm trying to put in the base of clouds and I put in too much grey. And so I'm wiping it off with paper towel. And I think it doesn't look too bad. Um, I'm blotting it a little bit too. I'm trying to get variation in my cloudscape. I was going to do a complete sky with a low horizon line, but then I put this tree in and it made a big difference. And I think I could have left the tree out. And I might do that painting at some point, a cloudscape, and really work on some clouds and get a good sky. I've sort of made a half-hearted attempt here, and I go further as we go along, putting in some golden tops to the clouds, which we see quite a lot here where I live in Florida in the wintertime. The sky, the light is very golden in the wintertime. I absolutely love the light here. This is obviously not Florida. It's just a place in my head, and no particular place. I don't paint from photographs very often. Sometimes I do, but very rarely. I usually paint whatever I have in my head. A picture of some place I must have been in my life. And this looks very English to me. I think it looks like maybe Devon or Cornwall. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on Devon or Cornwall. I'm not really sure. That could be a tin mine, though, instead of a village. I'm not sure. We'll have to leave it as just an anonymous sort of place. I got out my liner brush to address just the trees in the distance and the shrub in the foreground. Um, Especially the shrub, I have the trunks a little too thick, so I put some green beside them to thin them down a little bit and make them more shrub-like. I definitely think that looks better. I do the same with the shrub. I put on a mid-tone and then I dot on the dark and the highlight, the shadow and the highlight. And I try and get a shrubby, bushy looking shrub with lots of foliage on it. That's my aim. You'll notice in this painting that I got the shadow side totally wrong. I put it on the right on the tree and on the left on the shrub. I don't know what I was thinking. I obviously wasn't thinking. I usually make a firm decision after I've got my mid-tone on, but I think the problem was I didn't take enough breaks in this. You have to take your breaks and study your picture and see what's going on with it. And I didn't do that. I usually have a cup of tea, sit down, look at my painting, and figure out what to do next. And I didn't do that today. I do like that I managed to get depth and distance into my painting. I feel there's space for me to explore. I like the birds. I think they're positioned correctly. I like the clouds, and I like the sea in the distance. I like a lot of things about this little painting, to be honest. Um, yeah, I'll show it to you. That's how I decide whether I'll show it to you or not. If I like it, I will. If I think there's something to learn from my mistakes, I'll show you those too. But this one, it's got a couple of mistakes, but it's not a bad painting. I love alizarin crimson, and I like to get it into my painting because I feel that it makes things a little livelier. It adds a little punch to the painting. And tree trunks are a great place, stems and tree trunks and leaves. That's where I try to put a little alizarin crimson in. And also, another color I like to do that with is French ultramarine blue. I also like the Talo colors. If you come across those, they add a lot of punch to a paint. You have to be very careful with those because they add a bit too much brightness. But they are lovely if you can get those into a painting. I always think it makes a painting more interesting. I'm adding green to the poplar trees, the little stand beside the road. I wish I had made them a little more substantial, a little taller, maybe. I've put them there because I felt that they drew my eye into the painting. They add distance to it. So I suppose they do that at least. I used sap green straight out of the tube to add a little shadow beneath the trees. And I put it on the right side for the tree and the left, and the right side for the shrub. One of those has got to be wrong. And the best I can do is point out my mistakes and hope that you don't make the same mistakes, that you learn something from them. It really is just an experience, isn't it? And I hope you get something from these painting experiences of mine and don't make the same mistakes I make. I think I ended up liking this painting. I didn't do very much more to it. I added some scrubby ground with a fan brush. Fan brushes are great for that. I did more to my tree, as you can see. And I think that was it, really. So I hope you enjoyed my painting today. And if you did, please like and subscribe. That helps the algorithm find my channel. And I'd be very appreciative of you doing that. And I'll see you next time. And maybe I'll get my water mixable oils out and show you how I paint with those. It'll be another experience anyway, another experiment. So I'll see you again. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.